And I'm like, man, you got me fucked up. I ain't running shit. And he was like, if you don't run that, I'm gonna blow you. And he was like, I'm gonna shoot you type shit.
When BTB Savage said those words on Vlad TV, he thought it would boost his street rep. Instead, it became his death sentence. Days later, he was ambushed in Houston. Now, new footage reveals his final moments, and the streets claim the truth doesn't match the police report. Let's dive in when keeping it real goes wrong. The streets was talking heavy when word broke about San Antonio's own BTB Savage catching that eternal fade on March 30th, 2023. Real name Daryl Gentry, this 26-year-old scam rap hustler got his ticket punched in Houston's River Oaks neighborhood in what the boys in blue immediately recognized as a straight-up assassination. No cap. This wasn't just another hood casualty, though. The whole situation was messy as hell, involving justified self-defense that somehow morphed into deadly street politics, all played out on social media for the world to see. BTB Savage had been living that scam rap lifestyle for real, and when push came to shove, his realness ended up being exactly what got him smoked. Born September 6, 1996 in Cleveland, Ohio, young Daryl relocated to San Antonio during his teenage years, where he'd eventually build his reputation as both a military vet and a rapper pushing the envelope in hip-hop's hottest new wave. Homie went from honor student to army soldier to controversial artist. That's some real versatility right there. Gentry's military background was solid. 4 years in the U.S. Army, reached private first-class rank, and even did tours in the Persian Gulf. His mom's Bernita Ward would always emphasize this when cats tried to paint her son as just another street dude. She kept it 100 about his service record, showing folks there was more to her boy than the rap persona. The music game that put Gentry on the map started popping off in the early 2020s, riding that Detroit scam rap wave that had the streets buzzing. His catalog included bangers like Scam Party, 2022, and joints like My Turn, 2023, all centered around that fraud life and street hustle narratives. The BTB stood for Break the Bank, and his constant references to Bank of America, BOA, became his whole brand identity. What separated Gentry from these studio gangsters was his authenticity. Unlike these rap cats fronting for the gram, his Instagram EBTB Savage showed he was really living what he was spitting. Expensive chains, stacks of cash, and that street credibility that resonated with fans of the genre who could spot fake from a mile away. The drama that would ultimately take Gentry out the game didn't start in March 2023, but weeks earlier in February when a violent home invasion at his San Antonio crib set everything in motion. What began as justified self-defense would evolve into social media beef that many believe directly contributed to his death.
Shit, they was always hitting me up to do music and shit like that. So I was like, all right, bet. But one day, it was late, I was like, shit. They was gonna pay for the feature or whatever.
The February 3rd, 2023 home invasion involved some dude named Omar Richardson, a 34-year-old OG who tried to run up in Gentry's spot and take his jewelry at gunpoint. The situation ended with Richardson getting his wig split in what San Antonio police ruled as justified self-defense under Texas's Castle Doctrine. But Richardson's death triggered threats from his peoples, especially from a cat named Montrell Burley.
And I'm like, man, you got me fucked up. I ain't running shit. And he was like, if you don't run that, I'm gonna blow you. And he was like, I'm gonna shoot you type shit.
Burley, a 40-year-old documented gang member from New Braunfels, was tight with Richardson even though they weren't blood. Both dudes were affiliated with the Styx gang in San Antonio and called each other brothers. Richardson getting bodied immediately put Gentry in the crosshairs of some get-back that would simmer for weeks before it all went left. The beef really escalated when Gentry sat down for that Vlad TV interview that dropped March 26, 2023. In this 31-minute sit-down, he gave up all the details about the home invasion, describing the violence with a tone that had folks in their feelings. Instead of showing trauma or remorse, homie seemed almost proud of how everything played out, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
I ain't gonna lie, it ain't that bad. Like, I went to sleep good as hell the next day. I was happy as hell too. I'm like, ooh. I mean, I ain't tripping, the arm fucked up or whatever, but I ain't dead.
The Vlad TV joint went stupid viral, racking up over 3.3 million views and sparking mad debate in the hip-hop community. Critics, including OG personalities like Benzino, publicly called out Vlad TV for potentially putting interview subjects in harm's way by encouraging them to air out sensitive ongoing situations. But the interview was just the beginning of what turned into a series of moves that many consider straight up reckless. In the days after the interview dropped, Gentry kept posting content on social media that many interpreted as trolling Richardson's peoples. These posts, combined with the detailed public account of the home invasion, created what many saw as as the perfect recipe for disaster. The most controversial and ultimately fatal decision came on the morning of March 30th, 2023. Gentry posted flicks on his Instagram showing himself posted up in the blood-stained aftermath of the February home invasion. The images showed him flexing confidently among bullet holes and dried blood, captioned "Too much motion," which served both as promo for his upcoming tape and what many interpreted as straight disrespect. The timing and content of these posts had folks calling it catastrophically stupid, coming just days after the Vlad TV interview had already stirred the pot, and with known threats floating around, the decision to post these provocative images was seen as an act of defiance that would have deadly consequences. The response to Gentry's post was swift and threatening. Within hours, the ops were making noise on social media platforms, with Richardson's associates promising immediate retaliation. The compressed timeline between the posts and what happened next showed how social media has sped up traditional street beef cycles. That same evening, around 6:10 p.m., Gentry got caught lacking while in his white Mercedes-Benz SUV in Houston's upscale River Oaks area. The shooters, rolling in a black Subaru Outback with Florida plates, let off dozens of rounds in what police immediately recognized as a targeted hit. The location where it all went down was significant. River Oaks is one of Houston's most exclusive neighborhoods, making the brazen daylight violence particularly shocking to residents and law enforcement. Houston Police Chief Troy Finner confirmed this was deliberate work, noting that no innocent bystanders caught strays despite the public location and extensive gunfire. The investigation moved fast, helped by modern surveillance technology. Police used license plate readers along I-10 to track the suspect vehicle traveling from San Antonio to Houston before the shooting and back afterward. Cell phone data placed the primary suspect near Gentry's location for hours before the hit, showing this was well planned and not some spur-of-the-moment move. On April 11, 2023, Montrell Burley got knocked and charged with the murder with his bond set at $2 million. The evidence against him included cell records, license plate tracking data, and ballistic evidence connecting him to the scene. A second shooter remained unidentified, though police kept working the case. The aftermath revealed the complex web of relationships and loyalties that drove the violence. Court documents showed that Burley viewed Richardson's death as disrespect that demanded payback, despite the fact that Gentry's actions were legally justified self-defense. Gentry's mother, Bernita Ward, became a voice for justice, while also emphasizing her son's character beyond his controversial public image. She painted a picture of him as a devoted father to a 4-year-old and a man whose military service and business ventures showed different sides from his rap persona. The night everything changed in the hood. To really understand how BTB Savage ended up in a body bag, we gotta rewind to that cold February night in San Antonio that flipped the whole script. February 3rd, 2023, started off regular for Daryl Gentry, who was grinding on his music career and trying to stack paper for his young family. What went down that evening in his downtown San Antonio spot would become a textbook case of justified self-defense that nevertheless triggered a deadly chain of street justice. The evening started with what looked like a regular business move. Gentry had been hit up by some young rapper who'd been persistent about linking up for a collab. The proposition seemed legit. Homie claimed he had studio equipment and was ready to drop some bread for a feature, which appealed to Gentry's hustle mentality and his desire to expand his network in the game. Even though his street senses were telling him something was off about the late hour, it was pushing 10 or 11 p.m. Gentry's desire for that quick bag overrode his caution. The promise of easy money from a feature collaboration was too tempting to pass up, especially for an artist still building his rep and trying to provide for his seed. This decision, driven by legitimate business ambitions, would ultimately put him and his loved ones in serious danger. The visitors rolled up with what initially looked like legitimate studio equipment, creating the vibe of a professional collaboration. However, Gentry's street instincts, sharpened through years of military service and urban survival, started sending up red flags. The two dudes, the younger artist and his older partner, later identified as Omar Richardson, started scoping out his apartment in a way that suggested they were casing the spot rather than focusing on the music. The situation got sketchy when the younger dude announced he needed to bounce back to the whip to grab more equipment, leaving Richardson alone with Gentry. This tactical move immediately triggered Gentry's street radar, who realized that legitimate collaborators wouldn't split up like this, especially leaving someone unfamiliar alone in his crib, his military training. And street awareness kicked in, prompting him to secure both deadbolts on his front door. Richardson initially tried to keep up the front, even flashing some cash and talking about his moves. This performance was designed to put Gentry at ease while Richardson assessed the apartment's contents and planned his approach. The conversation gradually shifted toward Gentry's jewelry, with Richardson asking about his chains and where he copped them, questions that served as reconnaissance for the robbery he was plotting. The mask dropped suddenly and violently when Richardson saw his opening. As Gentry looked down at his jewelry while explaining its value, Richardson pulled out his strap and revealed his true intentions. The transformation from potential collaborator to armed robber was instant and terrifying, demonstrating the calculated nature of the home invasion. Gentry's response to the robbery attempt was immediate and defiant. Rather than folding to Richardson's demands, he refused to give up his property, a decision that would escalate the confrontation to life and death stakes. This refusal reflected both his military training and his street principles. Surrendering to home invaders would have been seen as a violation of both personal dignity and street code. The threats escalated when Richardson started targeting not just Gentry, but his girl and young son, who were also in the crib. This expansion of targets transformed a robbery into a home invasion that threatened an entire family, including a sleeping 4-year-old. The presence of the child would become a crucial factor in how everything played out, adding desperation and protective instincts to an already volatile situation. The physical confrontation that followed was intense and chaotic, involving multiple weapons and life-or-death struggles throughout the apartment. Gentry's military background became crucial as he employed combat techniques learned during his army service, using arm locks and tactical maneuvers to attempt to disarm Richardson and protect his family. The situation got even more dangerous when Richardson's shots started penetrating the walls of the apartment, with bullets entering the room where Gentry's young son was sleeping. This escalation transformed a home invasion into a direct threat against an innocent child, adding another layer of urgency and desperation to the defensive actions that would follow. The game changer came when Gentry's girl entered the fray. As Gentry physically restrained Richardson, preventing him from using his weapons effectively, she grabbed one of the guns and started blasting at the intruder. Her actions, while legally justified as defense of home and family, would set in motion the chain of events that would ultimately lead to tragedy weeks later. Rather than ending the confrontation, the gunshots seemed to energize Richardson, who kept fighting despite his wounds. The situation became even more complex when the accomplice outside began firing through the front door, unleashing what Gentry estimated to be approximately 20 rounds in rapid succession. This external gunfire created a crossfire situation that endangered everyone in the apartment. The most disturbing aspect of the external gunfire was the apparent abandonment of Richardson by his accomplice. Despite the heavy shooting through the door, the outside shooter fled the scene without attempting to rescue his partner, leaving Richardson to face the consequences of the failed robbery alone. This abandonment would later be cited as evidence of the callous nature of the criminal enterprise. The final moments of the confrontation were marked by Richardson's apparent movement toward the hallway leading to the child's bedroom. This perceived threat to his son triggered Gentry's most desperate actions, as he made split-second decisions to neutralize what he saw as an imminent danger to his family. The presence of the child throughout these events added an element of protection that would be crucial in the legal justification that followed. In the chaos and confusion of the final struggle, Gentry's girl accidentally caught him with friendly fire in the elbow while attempting to neutralize Richardson. This accidental shooting left Gentry with a permanently damaged arm, but didn't prevent him from continuing to protect his family until the threat was eliminated. The injury would require immediate medical attention and serve as permanent physical evidence of the traumatic night. The aftermath of the home invasion was both legally and emotionally complex. San Antonio police, responding to reports of gunfire, found Richardson dead from multiple gunshot wounds. After conducting interviews with Gentry at the hospital and his girl separately, investigators concluded that the shooting was justified self-defense under Texas law, specifically the Castle Doctrine that allows deadly force in defense of one's crib. The legal doctrine that protected Gentry and his girl was Texas's Castle Doctrine, which permits property owners to use deadly force against intruders without a duty to retreat. The presence of firearms, the threats against family members, and the endangerment of a child all contributed to the clear justification of their defensive actions. However, the legal victory came with immediate and dangerous consequences. Richardson's death triggered threats from his peoples and family members, particularly from Montrell Burley, who considered Richardson a brother despite no blood relation. These threats, delivered through social media platforms, promised swift retaliation against Gentry, his girl, and even his young son. The psychological impact of the home invasion was deep and lasting. Gentry later admitted to developing severe PTSD from the experience, which affected his daily life and his interactions with strangers. This trauma response was entirely normal, given the intensity and life-threatening nature of the confrontation he had survived. The February home invasion represented more than just a failed robbery. It was the opening chapter of a tragedy that would claim Gentry's life just weeks later. The interconnected web of gang relationships, family loyalties, and street justice that surrounded Richardson's death created a volatile situation that would eventually explode in Houston's River Oaks neighborhood. What makes this case particularly tragic is how a clear-cut instance of justified self-defense became the catalyst for further violence. Gentry had every legal right to defend his crib, his girl, and his young son against armed intruders. The presence of a child, the use of weapons by the criminals, and the threats against family members all clearly justified the defensive actions taken that night. Yet in the parallel universe of street justice, legal justification means nothing when it comes to matters of respect, reputation, and get back. The February home invasion, while legally resolved in Gentry's favor, created enemies who wouldn't be satisfied with legal outcomes and who viewed Richardson's death as a debt that demanded payment in blood when social media beef turns deadly. The events of February 3rd might have stayed a private family tragedy, a justified act of self-defense that the system properly recognized and closed, if not for a series of moves that would transform a closed legal case into a public spectacle with deadly consequences. The pivotal moment came on March 26, 2023, when BTB Savage sat down for what would become his final and most controversial interview with Vlad TV, a platform that had built its reputation on extracting provocative content from hip-hop artists, often at their most vulnerable moments. Vlad TV, hosted by Vladimir Lyubovny, had established itself as a major force in hip-hop media by conducting lengthy interviews that often delved into artists' most sensitive experiences, including criminal activities, beefs, and traumatic events. The platform's interview style was designed to generate viral content, often encouraging subjects to share information that might put them in danger in exchange for the exposure and credibility that came with a popular Vlad TV appearance. Gentry's decision to sit down with the show reflected the complex pressures facing emerging hip-hop artists who must balance authentic street credibility with career advancement. In the scam rap subgenre that defined his musical identity, keeping it real was everything, and artists were expected to demonstrate that their bars reflected real experiences rather than fictional narratives. The home invasion provided the ultimate authenticity, a documented, legally justified act of violence that proved his street credentials beyond question. The interview itself was comprehensive and unflinching, running over 31 minutes as Gentry provided graphic, detailed accounts of the February home invasion. What made the content particularly controversial wasn't just the violent nature of the events he described, but the tone and attitude he displayed throughout. Rather than expressing trauma, remorse, or the psychological weight that typically accompanies taking a life, even in self-defense, Gentry appeared almost celebratory about how everything went down. This casual attitude toward lethal violence troubled many viewers and critics who felt that regardless of legal justification, taking a human life should carry more psychological weight. The interview's tone suggested that Gentry viewed Richardson's death not as a tragic necessity, but as a victory to be celebrated, an attitude that would prove particularly inflammatory to Richardson's friends and family members. The viral spread of the interview was immediate and extensive. Within days of its publication, the video had accumulated over 3.3 million views, making it one of Vlad TV's most popular recent interviews. The content spread across multiple platforms, with clips and commentary appearing on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, amplifying its reach and ensuring that Richardson's associates would inevitably see Gentry's detailed account of their friend's death. The hip-hop community's reaction was mixed and intense. Some cats praised Gentry's honesty and his refusal to be victimized by home invaders, viewing his actions as a necessary defense of family and property. Others criticized both his decision to put such sensitive information in the streets and his apparent lack of remorse, arguing that his attitude was unnecessarily provocative and potentially dangerous. Veteran hip-hop personalities like Benzino publicly called out Vlad TV for platforming such content, with Benzino stating he would never appear on the show again. He cited concerns about how these interviews often preceded violence against participants, highlighting a troubling pattern where traumatic experiences became commodified content that potentially endangered the subjects. The criticism pointed to broader issues within hip-hop media culture, where platforms profit from extracting sensitive information from artists who may not fully understand the potential consequences details of their revelations. The Vlad TV model, long-form interviews that encourage detailed discussions of criminal activities and street conflicts, had been linked to several cases where participants faced retaliation after their appearances. But the interview was just the beginning of what would become a series of increasingly reckless social media moves. In the days following the interview's publication, Gentry kept posting content that many interpreted as straight trolling, including references to the home invasion and images that seemed designed to antagonize Richardson's peoples. The most fateful decision came on the morning of March 30th, 2023. Gentry posted Instagram flicks showing himself posted up in the aftermath of the February home invasion scene, flexing amid bloodstains and bullet holes that remained as evidence of that violent night. The images showed him displaying jewelry and making gestures that many interpreted as straight disrespect. The caption accompanying these images, "Too much motion," became the subject of intense analysis. The phrase served multiple purposes. It promoted his upcoming tape while conveying the unstoppable energy that defined his artistic persona. However, given the context and timing, many interpreted it as direct provocation toward Richardson's associates. The response to these posts was swift and menacing. Within hours, threats began circulating on social media platforms, with Richardson's peoples promising immediate getback. The compressed timeline between the posts and subsequent events demonstrated how social media had accelerated traditional cycles of street beef. The case highlighted the complex dynamics of modern hip-hop culture, where authenticity and street credibility are often measured by one's willingness to publicize conflict. This culture creates pressure for artists to document and share experiences that might be better kept private, especially when those experiences involve ongoing tensions with dangerous individuals. Gentry's mother, Bernita Ward, would later express her belief that the interview and subsequent posts ignited a fire that led directly to her son's death. Her perspective reflected the frustration of families watching loved ones navigate the dangerous intersection of street credibility and social media fame. The aftermath of Gentry's death sparked broader conversations about responsibility of artists, media platforms, and social media companies. The viral spread of content related to the case raised questions about platform policies and the ethics of sharing sensitive material for entertainment purposes. The speed at which everything escalated after the Vlad TV interview was particularly striking. The timeline from the interview's publication to Gentry's death was just 4 days, with the provocative social media posts occurring mere hours before the fatal shooting. This rapid escalation led some online commentators to grimly describe it as a world record for retaliation speed, highlighting how social media has accelerated the pace of street conflicts. By 2025, the story continues to generate discussion through documentaries and social media analysis, with content creators examining the events and their implications for hip-hop culture. The case remains a cautionary tale about how legitimate self-defense can escalate into tragedy when mixed with social media stunting. The BTB Savage story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers facing young artists in hip-hop, where the line between artistic expression and real-world consequences can be tragically thin. While Gentry had every legal right to defend his family, his decision to publicize these events transformed Justified. Self-defense into what enemies viewed as disrespect requiring response. If you are still watching, you're a real one. Check out our other videos for more real street content.